Ikväll så talade jag med Aaron Selin som är en amerikansk islamistexpert som skrivit en bok om HTS. Och jag frågade honom hur extrem den islamistiska rörelsen är idag.
I think that they still remain to be conservative Islamists. It's important to recognize that they no longer are part of the global jihadi movement. They haven't been for 8.5 years. But just because they've changed from that doesn't mean that they don't still have views that are not necessarily in line with everybody within Syria. And the way that they've been running Idlib over the last 7 or 8 years or so has still been authoritarian on some level.
But is there a risk that Ahmed al-Shara wants to establish something resembling the Taliban regime in Syria?
We haven't seen anything really along those lines specifically. HTS has been far more open than the Taliban in a relative sense, of course. For example, women have a role to play in society. They are out in public. They don't need somebody to guide them around. They don't have to wear a full body, abaya or niqab. They're in schools. They go through graduate school, including medical colleges and Idlib University. And they're also part of the bureaucracy of the government. The one thing that would be differentiating from, say, like a liberal democratic understanding is that they don't have political representation within the consultative council of HTS, a civilian government called the Salvation Government, nor do they have any senior level positions within it. So while not as bad as the Taliban, obviously not up to same standards as that one would understand maybe in more of a Western context.
HTS says they want a peaceful transfer of power and that religious and ethnic minorities will live safely under the new rule. Can this be trusted?
I think we have to understand it within the context of their views on what this all means. There have been Christians and Druze that have lived under their rule in Idlib over the last few years. And while they are not necessarily harmed and they kind of deal with their own affairs, they don't have representation within the consultative council either. So it's more of like this Ottoman-style millet system from 100 years ago in some ways, and not sort of the way one might think of minority rights in a liberal sense.
So do you think that HTS will allow Syria to become a democracy?
I think it's one of the biggest questions we have going forward. I mean, they have been okay with a small version of elections within their own consultative council. I think many just don't know the answer if they're willing to stretch that to a broader part of society at this point, because, before, when they're in control of just northwest Syria, it was mostly a conservative area of Sunni Muslims, whereas now there's a greater percentage of minorities. We've seen this group and Ahmed Shara, pivot in the past in many ways. So we'll see now if they're able to do it again. And I think a lot of potential international support, especially from Western countries, will be dependent on if we see them opening up more. But, we have now 3 months to see if this will happen or not.
What could the international community do to contribute to a peaceful and democratic development in Syria?
I think what's been going on so far has been a good start, showing that there's the potential that if HTS, operates in a positive manner that heads in the right direction, that there could be more and more engagement, and potentially down the line, if actions continue to show good deeds, that maybe at some point there will be a reconsideration of sanctions related to the terrorism designation. But of course, being taken off those types of lists are not a present either. We also understand that, actions speak louder than words. So I think a lot of what's going on is now everybody feeling each other out and seeing how that might play out. But it's good that at least that there's some level of engagement, because hopefully that could pursue more openness from HTS in the future.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future?
I'm hopeful, but also guarded.
Aaron Selin får avsluta kvällens agenda. Och vi tar faktiskt nu juluppehåll. Vi är tillbaka igen efter 13-helgen. Och hela redaktionen passar på att önska er alla en riktigt god jul och gott nytt år.